The very first apes appeared in what is now Tanzania around 25 million years ago. They diverged from monkeys due to changes in their environment, adapting to a life of living both on the ground and in the trees, using their long arms to pull them through the branches. Their faces would begin to resemble humans more closely than those of previous primates on the fossil record, and they would lose their tails entirely. They were no longer needed for balance for an animal that would eventually not need to walk on four legs through the trees anymore. These early apes would go on to form the basis of what was needed for all the modern groups of apes to evolve: gorillas, chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, gibbons, and of course humans. Much better suited to feeding on these grasses or catching small creatures that lived within them. As the body plans of these primates evolved, so did their brains, and by the end of the Miocene and subsequent Pliocene epochs, the stage would be set for the world's first upright walking apes to evolve and defend themselves against the elements during winter. Towards the end of the Pleistocene, Homo neanderthalensis and Homo denisova, respectively known as the Neanderthals and Denisovans, would appear on the Mammoth Steppe, the world's largest continuous environment, characterized by rolling plains and extinct megafauna. These species would lead complex lives and were capable of creating art, controlled fire, and even speech. Their barrel-shaped bodies and tough exteriors would aid them in the rough, dangerous, and ultimately short lives they led, something majorly important in the brutal conditions of the Mammoth Steppe. They would soon be joined by Homo sapiens, us. It took us millions upon millions of years to get here, but soon enough, our very own species would be running through the tundras and plains of the Mammoth Steppe after giant deer, extinct bison species, and woolly mammoths. We would migrate to the Americas, where the first people to set foot in the north would encounter huge mastodons and ground sloths. Those in the south would meet armadillos the size of cars, and the famous saber-toothed cat Smilodon.
Showpiece in his home. After his death, it's donated to a museum where something odd is found. The mummy's bandages are filled with letters, and not a few letters either. A whole book. A puzzling book. It wasn't Egyptian at all. The ink read like inscriptions from Italy, made by an ancient civilization the Romans called Etruski or Tusci. Today, we still call their homeland Tuscany. And now here was this mummy wrapped in the longest Etruscan text ever seen. It was precious, but this linen book had a problem it shared with thousands of other Etruscan inscriptions. The language looked nothing like any other. Mysterious, but not undeciphered. These letters go from right to left, but flip them and you'll see that they are basically our letters. See, the popular story goes that the ABCs spread from the Phoenicians to Greece to Italy, where Rome inherited them. We're missing a piece, though. It was the Etruscans who spread the alphabet in Italy. And it seems the Greek alphabet they inherited had too many sounds for them. Etruscans were fine with voiceless p, t, k, but they didn't need the voiced b, d, g. In an inscription, they even wrote the word for Greek as kreike. This is why the Romans, when they borrowed the alphabet, originally pronounced C as both k and g. Looking at the Greek alphabet, it should have only made the sound g. In my video on Latin letter modding, this is why we met a vexed Roman who added a tail to that C to create our letter G. But Etruscan did make use of sounds that might be harder for you to distinguish. Get your ears ready. Pa, ta, ka versus aspirated pa, ta, ka. Like persu, mask, a word that lives on right in the heart of our English vocabulary. Ancient reports tell us that they were also missing the vowel O, or linguistically we'd say that they didn't distinguish O from U. If we believe the claim that Rome took its very name from Etruscan, one interesting example is the word Ruma. So this book was missing letters, but it also added letters, like this curious 8-looking symbol, earlier written V plus H. The Romans cut out the H and left us with F. So this is a F. Etruscans also had many letters for S sounds, but only used 2 of them at a time, a hint that they distinguished S from Sh. But what do these letters mean? The answers lie in an ancient dictionary written by the last known speaker, Emperor Claudius, whose work was lost. No dictionaries, no grammars, and find after find after find frustratingly never uncovered an Etruscan Rosetta Stone. The experts turned to guessology, pull words out of the text, and guess. Is this by chance Indo-European? No, clearly Semitic. Wait, it's like Basque. No, Hungarian. Fed up with this circular approach, Etruscologists took a new path. Don't pull words out of artifacts, leave them in. Then, like a code without a key, try out combinations. Look at each inscription in its context. Combine different meanings in different contexts until you find meanings that unlock every text. It was brute force, but slowly this combinatory technique yielded results. We caught glimpses of a real language with real grammar. It had singular and plural nouns, clan, klenar, ais, aiser. There were case endings like nominative e on kreike, pronouns like mi, mini, and verb tenses. Tur had a past tense, turke. We uncovered a language with dynamic and changing sounds. Vowels were trending simpler over time. The hero Ajax was once Aivas, but later became Evas or Evas. The word for the gods, the highest Etruscan concern, was Aesir, and later Aesir. They used nucleic consonants where we might expect vowels, lauten, or maybe faint vowels like Atalanta. These smashed Etruscan words suggest the language underwent a big shift. Centuries into its written history, inscriptions start to drop vowels after the first syllable. The Etruscan name for themselves was once Rasenna, but became Rasna. And in one inscription, a Latin word gets chopped down to prescience. It's a major clue that Etruscan words started with a heavy accent on their first syllable. Not Rasenna, but Rasenna. Comparing translations and glosses yielded even more results. Take quasi-bilinguals, these inscribed Etruscan artifacts with a Latin or Greek doppelganger. My favorite are talking objects, aristocratic gifts that speak for themselves. Mini mulovanike laudis velkanas. It's very quirky, but it's plausible when we find out that objects also talk like this in Latin and Greek and Venetic. We were even finding hints of a context for the language itself, a language so unlike its neighbors. A fascinating stone from the Greek island of Lemnos features a soldier surrounded by letters and words that really resemble Etruscan. Is this a lost sister language? A dialect? Perhaps Etruscan wasn't so alone. Did it belong to a larger family of Tyrrhenian languages? The language of that linen book is still mysterious. We don't know how this text got to Egypt, but thanks to all this work, we can tell it's a kind of ritual calendar, and sometimes we can follow whole threads of text. Keli hutish tsatrumish, flerkva netunsur shukri tetsrik. It's almost like if you close your eyes, I could take you right back to the days of fluent Etruscan. But ask how to say a simple yes or no, and we're lost again.